Hello, and welcome back to the Detours in Music podcast. My name is Laura Rupel, and this is Season 4, Episode 2. Season 4 is all about the musicians and staff of the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, and today's interview brings Kyle Lamb, who is the box office manager. Hope you enjoy.
I'm Kyle Lamb. Currently, I'm the box office manager for the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra.
And how long have you been working there?
I've been with the CSO a little over 2 years, and in my current role, a little over 1 year.
Cool. And you were a patron services representative like myself originally, right?
Yes, yeah. I started as a patron services representative, and then became a supervisor, and then in early March 2020 became the box office manager right before the world shut down.
Yeah, perfect time for a new job, right?
Right. Just what I wanted.
Can you talk about your start in music?
Yeah, I had just the most amazing elementary school music experience and culture. It was, it just seemed normal for me because it was the only thing I knew. That pretty much the whole school was involved in music in one way or the other. So it started out just, every 4 days having music class. But then the music teacher also had a recorder ensemble and an orff ensemble and a drum ensemble and a choir. And it was so part of the culture that the choir was for 5th and 6th graders. And it rehearsed during lunch, which you think would be or during recess, and you'd think that'd be the worst possible time to get 5th and 6th graders to do anything besides run around. But out of 60 5th graders and 60 6th graders, probably 58 in each grade were in the choir. So it was definitely the norm. In 4th grade, I started playing viola in our strings program. And then in 6th grade, I started playing percussion in band. So by 6th grade, 3 days of recess, I was doing music. Every 4 days, I'd have general music. And then once a week, I'd have strings. And once a week, I'd have band. So it was it wasn't normal for everyone to do all of them, but it was normal for someone to do at least one of them.
Yeah. I wonder if that's also a mindset thing of pairing recess and music. It's they're on equal levels of fun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's what you do after lunch and you can go have fun singing. So.
Yeah. Do you think that all the little ensembles in your elementary school is what drew you to percussion?
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't say that my elementary music teacher was an orff teacher, but it was very very orff inspired. And there was a drum ensemble and an orff ensemble, and so basically it was oh, you're an older music kid, you don't play recorder anymore, you play these percussion instruments. And then it was oh, cool, I can do that too. And I didn't take piano lessons, but I got a keyboard when I was younger, and so I did that, and so it made sense for me to play the xylophones and stuff because I could kind of read the music and kind of understand it.
Yeah. When did the transition for you happen when you wanted to pursue music?
I think early on in it was, I don't I think looking back, all of these music teachers I had in 4th, 5th, 6th grade, and then in middle school, were secretly cultivating it. I think those sorts of things, and that led me to, by the time I was in high school, be taking music pretty seriously, doing it outside of school, and in sort of an almost everyday kind of capacity. And then it was just the natural thing to do was to keep doing more music.
Where did you attend school and why?
So I did both my undergrad and my artist diploma, which is the only grad school I've done, at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, CCM as it is known. And I ended up there because it seemed like a great place. It was always like, it was one of like the conservatories in Ohio. I'm from Ohio. I grew up in Columbus. I didn't want to go to Ohio State, even though they have a good music program, but it wasn't, I was like, I wanted to get away from Columbus. And so like that was the idea behind Cincinnati. And then my senior year ended up having some mental health struggles of high school. And basically like I didn't quit music altogether, but like I didn't have a private lessons teacher. I wasn't really playing all that much on my own. And so like I didn't take any auditions. I ended up coming to UC, to the art school here, College of Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning, and studying art because like it was also a great art school and I was interested in art. And so I ended up doing a year of that, and then auditioning for CCM and then attending CCM. But it was like, it's this great, UC is this great place where it has this great art school and it has this great music school. And I knew that like, even if I was coming here for art, I still had this like option to stay where I was and study music at like a really high level.
Yeah, I think when there are people in high school like questioning their majors or wanting to explore different things, going to schools that have all the options is a really nice way to make that work. And it
Definitely.
does seem like UC is big enough that it has great programs in a lot of areas. What drew you to an artist diploma?
So after I finished my undergrad, I worked, well, throughout my undergrad in the summers, I had worked at Interlochen Arts Camp, and I had been a camper there when I was in high school. And then I worked there during the school year at their boarding school in arts administration, or excuse me, in student affairs. And so it was like I'm kind of using my education degree and all of those sorts of things. And I was kind of like, when I finished my undergrad, I was like kind of like, this is probably like the last time I'll play like at this level. Like I'll continue playing, I'll continue gigging, but like as far as like a pre-professional level of playing, I kind of was like that, I think that might be it for me. And then when I came back, visited my teacher, and he was like, you should come back for your master's. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever, Jim. And then, we kept talking about it. And I was like, well, if I'm going to come back to play music, I want to come back to play music.
Yeah.
And so the artist diploma, let me play a lot of music, at times way too much music. But, I was like, I've done the academic side of things. There's still plenty out there for me to learn and explore, but I was like, if I'm coming back to play, I want to play. And this seemed like the way to play the most music in 2 years.
Yeah. Would you recommend for people to think of that more of an option in contrast to the master's degree?
Yeah, like depending on what your goals are, it seems so much like a master's degree right now is only as useful as it is to get you into a DMA. Like there's only so many things that like a master's in percussion performance will get you, as opposed to, like if you're applying for a college job or something like that, like if there's someone with doctor, they have the leg up. Whereas like I was like, I just want to play music. Like I don't know what my long-term career path is, but I know I like playing music and I know I want to play music. And this was a way for me to play a lot of music that I wouldn't have, if I was spending 4 hours a day in, theory and history classes and research methods and stuff.
What is something you've struggled with when you were in your undergraduate degree? Maybe that could have been that transition to going into CCM, or?
Yeah, I think it was just a series of those sorts of things. Like I started as an art major studying fine art, and then I transitioned and then was studying percussion performance. And then after 2.5 years of that, I was like looking at, like myself and my plans and what my goals were. And I realized, I was spending my summers working with kids at Interlochen, and I was teaching private lessons, and I was doing all of these like educational things and working with young musicians and spending my time with them. And then I was like, maybe music education is like the thing for me. And then I added that and did the music ed degree in a super shortened timeline. And just like, so I did like 1 year of art and then 3 years of performance, and then a really tiring 2 years of performance and education and student teaching. And so like all of those things were, me figuring out what the long-term plan was, I guess, even though who knows what the long-term plan is still. But I'm like definitely happy that I took those options and went down those paths and had those experiences.
When was arts administration something that you saw yourself drawn to? Was it also at Interlochen?
Yeah, so like being in a place where like there are plenty of staff and plenty of kids, but it's just like it's a small community, like everyone's pitching in and helping everything else, and it's like, oh, I'm in student affairs, but I'm like helping with emails to families, and I'm also during the school year I'm managing the band, for 45 minutes a day. I'm taking attendance and making sure everything's set up and making sure everyone has music and stuff like that. And it was just like all of these little things that all like pieced together, that while I was like, my main role was always in student affairs, all of these secondary roles started like piling up, and I was like, oh, like this is something that makes sense. And then when I came back to Cincinnati for my artist diploma, like I needed a little extra money, so I started working in the box office a couple days a week. And then that kind of one thing led to another, and now arts administration is the place where I am.
Yeah. Is it where you think you want to stay, or is this just all to be seen?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely all to be seen. Yeah, I'm like very much right now at this point in my life in the camp of like gain experiences, gain skills, learn as much as you can, and then figure out what you want to do with that. And so, this is, I'm not, I didn't go to school for marketing. I didn't go to I'm not a writer, but here I am, writing emails and social media posts for the Cincinnati Symphony sometimes, and like helping out with marketing and coming up with ideas for ads and stuff like that. But yeah, like just like learning those experiences and then seeing what options present themselves.
If you were not a musician, do you think you'd be an artist today? Or a visual artist?
Maybe. Like I see those two things as being like pretty similar.
Yeah.
So like if I wasn't a I felt like a lot of my art was about music, and a lot of my music is about art. So like those, or like the music that I'm drawn to is, new and contemporary and kind of in that contemporary art world. So like I don't necessarily separate those two ideas, but like maybe something like statistics or math or like data analysis, those are all sorts of things that I'm like also interested. Like I love a good spreadsheet. Like as much as I hate budgeting, I like the process of budgeting, like coming up with those sorts of things. And then like I also get, in my role now, even though like, I'm the box office manager, I do get to do some of that like data analysis of like looking at how things are selling, looking at how things did sell, those sorts of things, and presenting it in a way that's like more meaningful than a chart of numbers.
Yeah, or like the ways to remind yourself that it's people behind the chart of numbers.
Right. Exactly.
How would you define detour in your life?
The word detour like assumes that there's some like right path, or like some fastest path, or some shortest path. And like when you're driving, sure, like you want, most of the time the goal is like get there as fast as possible. But like, you know, like I said, I'm at a point where I'm like happy to not necessarily have like a 10-year plan that's super specific. That's more just like, oh, I like these things and I want to do more of these things. However, like whether that's my career or whether that's, you know, in my free time, those sorts of things. So, you know, like certainly when I was younger, like going to art school and then going to music school seems like a detour. But my music school experience informed my art school experience, and my art school experience informed my music school experience. Like everything builds on itself, and not in like a, like everything happens for a reason, but not in like a grand plan sort of way, but like all of these things and experiences you've done and all these things that you've learned have opened doors or opportunities for you. And then you get to pick which one of those to pursue more often or more strongly. And then like that's your path, and like it won't be a straight line, and that's okay because it's life, not a plane trip.
No, I am in complete agreement. I think the detour kind of becomes the path in real life. What are your current goals for maybe your job at CSO or for yourself as a musician right now?
Yeah, so like at the CSO, my biggest goal continues to be to you know, have audiences that are you know, that are more like real life, have audiences that are representative of the city that we live in, which is, you know, not 92% white and majority above 60 years old. And so like in my role, that's, you know, building connections with community organizations, community groups, and you know, working with them to get them tickets. And also like just as far as the staff for the CSO, you know, I get to oversee the hiring of a large portion of the staff, just since there are so many box office staff, and they are the public face of the box office. And so working to make sure that, you know, the job application and those sorts of things are out in the real world, and not just like on the CSO website where, you know, college musicians like me or you would look for a job, but lots of people wouldn't be like, oh, I'm looking for a job, let me check the Cincinnati Symphony website for a job. Like whereas I definitely would have, and I did, and here I am. So those are like my biggest goals for my role at the CSO right now. And then just like personally, you know, I actually have the first rehearsal for like an orchestra thing that I've had in a very long time tonight, playing with the Queen City Opera, doing Tchaikovsky program, but like it's the first time that I've played you know, like seriously in a long time, with all of the events that have gone on in the past 2 years. But like, so I'm looking forward to that, and getting back to hopefully more of that in the future, and finding that balance of like doing the arts administration, but also not separating myself too much from the art that like I started out with.
Yeah.
I did like one of these quotes that you had sent, the Ben Britton one.
Okay.
So the quote, "The old idea of a composer suddenly having a terrific idea and sitting up all night to write it is nonsense. Nighttime is for sleeping." And like, you know, all of the quotes I enjoyed, and like lots of them are very serious, but I think that this one is very real. Like we as artists get so wrapped up in these like romantic ideas of how this is all supposed to work, and like how we are supposed to act, and you know, we're supposed to be in the practice room shedding for you know, hours and hours and hours nonstop, you know, and like burning the midnight oil and all of the idioms that you want to use, but like finding that balance
Mhm.
of like, what is a reasonable expectation for me to accomplish each day, and like how to achieve that in an efficient way,
Mhm.
is something that like a lot of young people I think struggle with. Like they think that the way to become a better musician is to practice for 8 hours a day,
Mhm.
which helps with some things, but like not a lot of other things. Whereas like if you take some time away and you sleep and you eat eat food at reasonable times, eat food that like has vegetables,
Mhm.
those sorts of things, um, like that all helps you become a better musician,
Yeah.
as well as like spending time listening to music and looking at music, not just like in there with your hands making the sounds. Like
Mhm.
there are lots of ways to become a better musician, and one of those is like taking care of yourself.
Mhm.
And so I that one stood out to me.
Yeah, I do really appreciate that because, especially coming from all these quotes, they come from like the top people. And so for Benjamin Britten to say, like, you all are putting too much pressure on yourselves, like that can ease a lot of us a little bit.
I'm very appreciative to Kyle for taking the time for this interview. One thing that he said that really inspires me is that there are a lot of ways to become a better musician, and one of those is to take care of yourself. So I challenge everyone listening today, if you're a musician or in whatever profession and field you're in, instead of spending as much time maybe as you are shedding your instrument or at the computer, take a little bit of time away and do something good for yourself. If you'd like to keep up with the podcast, there are multiple ways you can do so. First of all, you can go to our website, which is detoursandmusicpodcast.weebly.com. You could also subscribe to our YouTube channel, also called Detours and Music Podcast. We also have a Facebook page and Instagram account where you can like and follow us. The Detours and Music Podcast is available everywhere that you listen to podcasts, but on Apple Music podcast apps, you can subscribe and rate us. If you ever want to get in touch with me and give more direct feedback, you can email me at detoursandmusicpodcast@gmail.com. As always, thank you for listening, and I hope you catch the next one.